basically I'm going to talk about California Superbike School. Jason and I have both been to it. I first went to it in 2005. That's how long ago. It was my third track day at that point. And I lived in California at the time, so I went to Sonoma Raceway, had a friend who lived up there, stayed with her, and then I did 2 days at the school there. I did level 1 and 2. And then in about 2012, I went to Barber and I did level 3 at Barber. And then last month I missed this meeting because I was in Seattle. So I went and did level 3 again because it's been many, many years since I did it. And I also did level 4. Jason, what was your history with attending the Superbike School?
So I started, my first one was in 2013. I did level 1 and 2. And I'll go through my timeline when I show you my piece. But yeah, I've been there 4 times.
Gotcha.
Starting in 2013.
Did you do, when I went to the school, I did the single day schools. I didn't do any of the camps. Did you attend any of the 2-day camps that they have?
I did. So all of the sessions that I've done with Superbike School have been the 2-day, full weekend camps.
Oh, cool. Because I haven't done a camp, I don't know what some of the differences are there, so we can talk about some of those differences and compare a little bit. Because I think you get quite a bit extra out of doing the camp with some of the specialty bikes they have. And my understanding, at least currently this year, one of the differences was at the school, they did 7 on-track sessions, whereas when I did the single days, you only get 5 sessions on track.
That's correct. And I think the ratio, the student-teacher ratio changes on the camps.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. Yeah.
So there were a maximum of 2 students per teacher on the 2-day camps.
Gotcha. Okay, yeah, when I did the single days, it was 4 students per instructor. So we got a lot
remember,
of
it costs a lot more for the camp than the regular. So you get what you pay for.
Yeah. So which tracks did you go to?
I'm going to go through all that. I want to let you.
Okay.
You tell about your experience, and then I'll go into mine. I don't want to steal your thunder, Michael.
Oh, no problem. Different strokes, man. Okay, let me switch back to the slide here. Command tab. Okay, so basically they have their website. I went on the website, I looked at the schedule there and selected where I wanted to go and when. They have the dates listed, they have the prices listed. You can figure out what you want to do. So for me, I was doing level 3 and 4, so I'm looking for the dates. The dates tend to be not on the weekend. Sometimes they are, but frequently a lot of the dates are like on a Monday and a Tuesday. And sometimes they have events on the East Coast, and they'll do Monday, Tuesday at one track, and then they'll go do Monday, Tuesday at another track. One of my strategies was I want to ride as many tracks as I can. So I was thinking, okay, I'll fly to those tracks and then I can drive to the next one, but I can't hang out for 5 days paying a hotel because I can't find anywhere else to go. Because a lot of these tend to be kind of rural areas, and sometimes it's near a big urban area where you could go do something, and it's not always the case. So you got to play the logistics and kind of figure it out. So the second piece of this was deciding, are you going to use their bike or are you going to use your bike? The school I went to in Seattle for level 3 and 4, the difference was $200 a day. Riding your own bike, which in my case, if I was close enough, I'd be riding my SV650, or for 200 bucks more, you can ride a 2002 carbon fiber wheeled S1000 with electronics all over the place, which is not something I'm likely to get the opportunity to do at all. But when you use their bikes, you get an expertly maintained bike on fresh tires. It has track bodywork on it, but otherwise it is a stock machine. They do let you modify the electronics on it, so if you do some studying before you go to the school, you can learn what the settings are and you can change those up a little bit, which I did. I went through the 3 different mode settings on the bike. I didn't try slick mode until the last day, but not that I really needed it. So that was a different experience for me. Riding their bike, you get it set up the way they want it. One of the things I had to deal with was they were unwilling to change the shift pattern for me. So I had to ride it in street bike standard shift pattern instead of GP shift. I had to think about what I was doing. It turned into not too big a deal. They are willing to convert the bike over to GP shift for you. Literally, you take a bolt out and you adjust the linkage. But they were only willing to do it if the school, either no one else was riding your bike, or the other rider that's using your bike during the other sessions was willing to ride the same pattern. They were not willing to change it for you every session and change the shift pattern. I could deal with the street bike shift pattern. It wasn't too big a deal. The other side of that was when you're out there running drills on the track, they say, you're gonna be in 3rd and 4th gear, that's it. Don't use the other gears. As the day goes on, they say, okay, now you can start to use 5th gear towards the end of the day, and then last session is like anything goes, whatever you want to run. So you have some options there, but if you were going with a buddy that's in a different level, they'd probably pair you up so you could share a bike and you could do that. But one of the challenges there was just I had to ride it in standard street bike mode. But again, all I ever did was upshift and downshift 1 gear. My brain's simple enough that I could manage that, and again, I was using clutchless shifting, which was totally cool. I gotta say, I envy that so much, because literally, you just kick it down and the bike would blip the revs and match the revs. I could be fully leaned over in a corner and I could shift it up or down. It made no difference on the bike's stability. It was just flawless. I don't know how much that's changed over the years. Jason, your bike is a slightly older model. You don't have the carbon fiber wheels, but they really seem to have got it right. Maybe it'll improve in the future, but I'm probably not likely to detect any change. So anyway, you don't have to buy tires. You ride your own bike, you're gonna wear out tires. There's gonna be some expense there. So for $200 a day, for me, it's a no-brainer. The other thing for me is I want to go to tracks I can't get to. Barber would probably be just about the only track that they run at that I could possibly take my bike to. I'm always flying in on an airplane with my bag, my helmet, my gear in a bag. I'm going to ride their bike. And I've done this with other track day organizations. I've rented a bike. It's usually $350 to $400 a day for something like a Ninja 250.
Yeah.
This is $200 versus a Ninja 250. Nothing against the Ninja, I did fine on that, crashed it, but $200, I can't beat that, I really can't. So if you gotta fly and you're going to one of these schools and you have some airline miles or something like that, man, go to a track you always wanted to ride that you may never get another chance to go to. I did ask everybody at the school, what was your favorite track? What was your favorite track? They said VIR, go to Virginia. It's totally cool, it's rural. I've seen Chris videos, I've seen Chris racing at VIR. I think he said the same thing to me when we were at the member day. You know, he really loved that track, the location and everything else. So
Okay.
I'm thinking about it for next year, so VIR is probably on my short list. And they don't have the school days, so cost of a track day is about $725 with the bike. So I'm going to do 2 days. If I'm flying anywhere, I'm going to do 2 days. So
You said it was a Honda 1000 or?
it was a BMW S1000.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Yeah, they have like a
So-
huge,
yeah.
like,
And
they have like what, 30, 40 BMWs like all lined up?
at least, yeah.
At least.
Yeah. And the instructor bikes are the same bike. They're painted red instead of the color scheme you see there. That's me at the Ridge. So you can tell who's the student, who's an instructor based on the color of the bodywork. But they're brand new. They have the carbon fiber wheels. Oh my God, the thing was just handled like crazy. I couldn't believe how light steering it was.
Wow.
They do have a rule that if you run off track with the carbon fiber wheels, you stay there and you have someone come inspect the bike, because if you hit a rock or something that chips the wheel or cracks the wheel, those wheels can fail catastrophically.
Explode, yeah.
So they come over and they check them really well before they let you go back out on the bike. So fortunately, I didn't do that. I didn't go down. This is the only place where I've ever rented a bike and not crashed the bike. Which
So what's their
thank God.
policy if you do crash the bike?
You
have
pay for whatever
deductible?
damage you do to the bike.
Okay.
So that could be a very big bill.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind. I'm not sure if they're going to offer insurance policies next year where you just pay a deductible and that limits your expense.
Yeah.
I've had that with other track days where you rent a bike and you can buy the insurance policy for the Ninja at Thunder Hill that I rented was $450 for the insurance policy. That's it, you pay that whether you crash or not. That's a fixed cost. I crashed their Ninja, I low-sided it, damage to the bodywork and everything came out to about $900. So yeah, I would have made up some money on that one.
If you got the.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting a Ninja to cost that much to fix, but it did. So anyway, on these track days, I am choosing to ride their bike, but you could ride your own, but this also allows me to fly anyway. So I'm all in on that one. So level 3, this was what I did the first day. I had done level 3 before at Barber. It was about 6 years ago, so it's been some time and I couldn't quite remember the lesson plans and everything else. So lesson 3 is mainly about body positioning on the bike. The first 2 courses, I don't remember them really well, but a lot of them were visual skills. I think level 2 was focusing on the 2-step, visually looking at your turn-in point and then looking at the apex and then at the exit. You're always looking at what comes next. So you hit your turn-in point, you should already be looking at the apex and getting ready to start looking at your exit point out of the corner. So it's all about visual skills and how to use your peripheral vision. Level 1, I honestly can't remember what we did in level 1.
So do you sign up for the specific levels? Do they evaluate you? How do you?
Nope, you sign up for the level, you get a certificate at the end of the level showing you've completed it. They might politely suggest you repeat a level if you're really struggling with something, but yeah, I never had that kind of problem. So I did repeat level 3 just because it had been 6 years. It's like, well, let's get back up to speed and see where we're at. I won't do that again, and I'll talk about that why in a little bit. But so in level 3, we had 5 sessions on track. We had session 1, everybody goes out, no brakes drill. You ride on the right side of the track the entire time. You're not apexing, you're not cutting from one side of the track. You literally ride it slowly, no brakes, on the left edge of the track, and you go all the way around the track. Second lap, you switch which side on the front start finish. You switch which side of the track you're riding on. What this forces you to do is look at the track. This is your track walk, essentially. Look where it's off camber, look where the apexes are, look where the curbs are, look at the condition of the pavement. You're not out there focusing on setting a time. You're out there doing a track lap and a track walk at a slow pace. The other thing is you're out there with all of the levels, 4, 3, 2, 1, everybody's on the track at the same time. Everybody's doing no brakes. So it's essentially like round robin, but it's not lead follow, it's just everybody out there going single file around the track. At the end of those 2 laps, you come in and then you go back out again individually. They break you up so you're not all in a freight train again. And you go out and you do the no brakes drill for the rest of that session. You ride as well as you can using your normal turn-in points, apex, exit, no brakes. Don't use your brakes. Invariably, someone slower will get in front of you and you're gonna have to slow down more than the bike will decelerate on its own. But no brakes. So that was session 1. Session 2 is a knee-to-knee transition. This is what they're teaching with body positioning. This is when you're going from turning right to turning left, because your body has to transition from one side of the bike to the other. One catch when doing that, if you're going through S's or something where it's a left-right, not if you're just turning one direction and then straight back up. This is for direction changes. And the point of the knee-to-knee drill is you're going to be riding on the bike, you get your knee out for the corner, but before you transition to the other side, you do a hip flip, which you move your butt over to the other side of the bike. You're still hanging off this side and your knees out, but you move your butt early. Then when you transition, your butt's already in the right place. It's less of a mass transfer on the bike to unsettle the bike. So you learn to transition without unsettling the bike. And because you've done that, all you got to do is put your knee out. So the catch is when you go from one side, you're going to bring your knee to the tank and then extend the other knee to knee. So you get one knee on the tank. Once it's on the tank, then you release the other knee to the other side. And that helps you transition from side to side. And you spend an entire session doing that on the track. Your coach will go out and watch you do it, give you feedback on how well you did it. And they also had video out there, so they'd video you doing it, and you'd get to watch a couple corners where you did it. And you'd focus on that transition. Session 1, session 2, hip flick and knee to knee, they broke it up because previously when they were teaching these two techniques, it was too much for a student. I got to do the knees and then I got to move my butt and everything else. So they broke it up. You do the knee to knee transition. Don't worry about your butt at this point. It's not going to be as effective. But then in the third session, you go out and you learn when you transition, you move your butt to the center of the bike before you transition. I saw Alberto Nasca doing this also. I think he mentioned he learned it from Marco Melandri.
Morbidelli, Franco
Morbidelli, yeah, that's right.
Yep.
And he was mentioning on exit of the corner, when he's starting to exit, move your butt over and just kind of leave your body there. Don't make so much work. Don't move your body any more than you have to, but he would move his butt because it's just very small motion and gets him where he needs to be when he does need to finally transition.
Right.
So it was very interesting. Session 4 was the J-hook technique, which I'm pretty sure all of us is doing at this point. This is get your head down to finish that corner. If your bike's not turning sharp enough, drop your head to the inside and you pick up that extra you needed to complete that corner and get that turn done. So that was the J-hook, and we spent session 4 doing that. This was 3rd and 4th gear, full brakes, and I think I had used 5th gear once when I was doing that just because SNES 1000 was so damn much fun. Enjoy the bike. The last session we had was picking the bike up. This is exiting corners where you'll pick the bike up ahead of you and then move up to it so you get it on the fat part of the tire and you can start your drive out on the exit on the corner. So those were the 5 techniques. Well, session 1 is no brakes, so you learn to judge speed and actually carry more speed because it's like, wow, I can actually take the corner without having to touch the brakes. So those were the 5 techniques we used. The format was we would go out and we'd go to the classroom first. This is similar to any track day that has any instruction. You go into the classroom, they talk about what you're going to do in the session. So they give you, this is your homework for this session is to do this drill. Level 1 through 3 at California Superbike School, you go into each session, they give you something to do on the track. It's not like you talk about techniques, now go out and just turn some laps. No, they force you to go out on the track to do the drills, not to set a lap time, not to pass other people. You go out on the track to do the drill. This is true classroom training.
Nice.
So they do that in the classroom session, then they send you out on the track with a coach. So you, in this level, we had 4 students per coach, and your coach is gonna blast around because they are so goddamn fast. They can catch anybody. It's just crazy, and they'll follow you and watch you. They know every one of their 4 students is supposed to be practicing the same drill. They're not looking at you and going, what's this person's weakness? What do they need to work on? No, they're going, we're doing the knee transition. Are you doing it, and what's your weak spot with that? And it was very interesting because on their motorcycles, they have paper on the tank and a pen. They're taking notes because they know who their students are, and they will take notes on what each person needs. It's crazy. In the steering stem of the bike in the triple clamp, they have like a rubber plug in there, and the pen will stick in there. They can ride around the track, and they have their ballpoint pen ready to take notes. They pull off the track, and they'll watch in a corner, and they will take notes, and then they'll go back out and follow a rider. So they're not actually taking notes while they're like knee on the
Okay.
ground, but
Okay.
most of the riders probably could if they needed to.
Right.
But, I had to ask about that one. Are you really taking notes on the track?
Just on the straightaways.
Yeah, so, yeah, exactly. You got the straightaway to catch up on it. So, once you get done with the drill on track, you're a riding coach. And again, there's the classroom person who is teaching the lesson is not the same person as the coach. So you have the classroom person, then you have the coach. The coach knows what you're doing, the coach is evaluating you. The instructor in the classroom is teaching you the lesson. And they have a bike in the classroom. They will sit on it, have everybody on the bike. This is the drill, this is how you do it. Get on the stationary bike, show you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
And that's what you're gonna go out on the track. And when you go out on the track, you're gonna go up the start front line and the person releasing you is gonna say, what's your drill? Repeat the drill to them and tell them what you're gonna be doing that session, because that's what you're expected to be doing that session. So they send you out, your coach will walk you. After the session, you'll come back to the pits and you will meet up with your coach at a picnic table and your group, and they will go around the table and review everything everybody did. You'll hear tips from other people that may or may not apply to you. They may apply to you in varying degrees, but you really get to hear everything and get all the feedback. So, unlike a lot of the track days where you go and hear late apex, turn-in point, we've heard all this before. They're actually working with you to ensure that you're learning the techniques and giving you feedback on that. So in some sessions they have video and they'll do the video around the room, which is always most helpful to me to actually see what I did versus what I think I did,
Yeah.
which are
Same way.
often different things.
How long are the sessions and how much time in between sessions?
There are only 5 sessions, which my opinion from the track day was doing the 5 sessions, and it's probably different for Jason doing the school, was that we'd go out on the track for about 20 minutes. So they're not really long sessions, and we'd come back in, go to the classroom, and then we'd like sit around for 45 minutes doing, just talking or whatever. There wasn't much going on. My big complaint is there was just a lot of waiting time. So that was one of the catches. The other thing that was
Hey,
really,
Michael?
Yeah.
Hey, Michael?
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt. Can you just go back one slide? I wanted to add
Oh.
a footnote on one of the drills.
Okay. Let me switch it back here.
So, yeah, in my opinion, the knee-to-knee drill was the most valuable for me, at the time when I was learning.
Yeah.
And the reason is that I was having trouble with moving the bike in a transition, and I would get a lot of head shake. The
Yes.
bike would move on me, and I told the coach, and he's like, well, are you putting a lot of weight down the bars when you turn the bike during the transition? And I said, well, yeah, because I have to hang on. And he says, no, you really should be using your body, your knees, you should be hugging the tank and put as very little input on the bars as you can to prevent that shaky feeling. So what the knee-to-knee drill does is it stabilizes the bike because you're using more of your body, you're hugging the tank. You've at least got one knee on the tank at any one time, and you're putting as little pressure on the bars as possible. And so once I started doing that, my transitions became a lot smoother and that shaky feeling went completely away. So of all the drills, and there's several, there's probably 50 of them, that's the one that helped me the most.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that because I hadn't used that technique before, and last time we went to MSRH, that's what I was focusing on, was doing that, making the transitions, coming out a keyhole and bus stop, and making those transitions and making sure I was getting the knee-to-knee contact on the tank, and it really stabilized things. My first session to the second, when we started doing that, all of a sudden I had exactly what you described. I was putting less input into the handlebars and causing that instability when I was changing direction. It also, in the first session, I wasn't doing the knee-to-knee transition, and my body kept scooting forward when I was slowing down. And after a couple corners, I'm up against the tank and I'd have to scoot back again. And then in the second session on the knee to knee transition, they're going, if your knee is always on the tank, you always have traction there and you're not going to slide forward. And after the second session, I never had that problem again any other day I was there. So just keeping your mind on that was huge. So it's great.
Yeah, and then just one last point on the J hook. The reason that works, and you'll see this on MotoGP racers all the time, and Ty Howard reinforced this when I took a lesson with him, is that by putting your head as far forward as you can, as close as you can to the bars, you're putting more weight on the front wheel, and you're compressing the geometry, which makes the bike turn better. Yeah. So that's what's really happened. That's why they call it the J hook. It's not so much your elbow, it's just that you're putting more of your weight forward, and it's helping the bike turn because of the geometry.
Yeah, getting that weight low and everything else, tremendous. So,
Okay. Nice.
anyway, other item here, we can see in the picture, the red bike there is your instructor. It's got all the bikes have a number on it, but the red one is the instructor there. Number 3 as well, you can see them mixing in with the students here on the group. But everybody's out there at the same time, and we had no red flags, none whatsoever. We had someone run off. There's a corner on this racetrack that's somewhat like the corkscrew at Laguna Seca. It is a left-hand turn followed by a right-hand turn, just like the corkscrew, and it drops about 4 stories in the transition. It's actually steeper. It looks steeper than the corkscrew at Laguna Seca. And one guy ran too wide on that corner. He ran off into the dirt there. It didn't cause a major red flag or anything. He just ran off the track. But there weren't the Ride Smart days where the red flag comes out 20 times and your session's interrupted and everything else. So that was a nice difference. And considering you had 1 through 4 on the track all riding together and mixing it up and nobody doing anything bad, that really speaks volumes, because I thought, wow, level 4 riders out there with level 1, is that safe? But it worked very well, and it also keeps people from packing up, because the riders that can pass are going to pass. And the riders that are slower get used to getting past, and it's less of a deal, you just get used to it.
Well, and even like the level 4 guys out there, they're not there to turn personal best laps, right?
Yes.
They are still also working on some specific drills.
Yeah, exactly,
Right.
exactly. So we had instructors out there, which kind of helps moderate the experience. It's not just putting in fast times. So it worked very well. I really enjoyed that. And the thing was, when I did level 1 and 2, I never noticed that there were level 4 riders out there. Yeah, I got passed, but you're thinking about your own riding. So not till I got to level 4 that I realized, oh wait, everybody's going out all at the same time. So anyway, that was one of the things that kind of took me by surprise there. The other thing is level 1, all 4 riders do the same drill. Doesn't matter which level you're in, the same drill. You're learning the track and you're doing no breaks first session, whatever level you're in.
Nice.
Everybody's doing the same thing.
That's nice.
Which you can't necessarily go out to a Ride Smart day in session 5 in intermediate level and decide, I'm going to do no brakes drill now. You're going to get drilled by someone else. If everybody's doing it, I think it works much, much better.
Yep.
So, any input on that one, Jason?
Yeah, so on the moderation of behavior, I'm glad you brought that up, because I think that is one of the things that sets this school apart from other track day orgs and events that we do. I personally saw Keith Code send a student home in the middle of the day because it was clear that this individual was just out there to do a track day. He wasn't doing any of the drills. He wasn't, following the advice from the coach. He was just out there passing everybody, trying to set a personal best. And I could overhear, I wasn't being, I wasn't trying to listen to the conversation, but you could just hear them arguing. And Keith was telling them, we're here to teach you that you're not here to prove anything to us. And they sent him home.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
So,
Yeah.
they take that very seriously. Anybody that just goes out there and tries to mess around and not listen or pay attention, Keith will say, now I don't know if they refunded his money or what, but he was gone.
Yeah. Well,
Probably not.
yeah, that's confidence inspiring to be out in an environment and have the integrity that it's going to be the environment you were expecting when you were signing up. So, yeah,
Nice.
very cool. Okay, this was talking about the hip flick. This is the second part. This is a short video. We'll see if this will play, because Jason has a video too.
Right.
And let's see how this works out. So this will explain the hip flick technique better than Michael Haregi will. Hopefully.
Once the riders manage to master knee to knee, we add the second part to this, which is called hip flick. Hip flick is essentially the timing of the movement from one side of the bike to the other, whilst the knee to knee part of the drill is the part that actually gives the stability. So when you go down the straight, you're going to end up into a corner. What do you tend to do with your body position? When do you set up for the corner? Early. We're going through a fast section like surgeries down here. We need to actually set ourselves up for the corner before we actually get there and go through. So when the bike's here, then over to the left-hand side, we actually want to already be here, ready for the bike to go right. Okay? So we're here. Before the bike actually moves, we want to set ourselves into position here. Now, how am I going to move myself across the bike? Yeah, use this knee as leverage. Okay, so you're here. If you push that knee into the tank, it will bring your body across. The only other alternative that you have is to be here is to push on the outside peg, sorry, the inside peg, which is going to then lift you out of the seat. It's going to make the bike feel unstable. Okay, so we're going to move our body position across from here, and push that into the tank and bring our bum over. So we're not breaking the golden rule of going with the bike. Okay, because the upper body is still in line with the bike. It's just the lower body is moved across and ready for when we flick it over to the right hand side. Okay, so it's just a point of timing more than anything else. At the moment you're moving with the bike, we need to change that so you move ahead of the bike. Does that make sense? Push this into the tank so it brings your bum over. Good, keeping grip with the tank, that's good. Bike moves, you move. Good. Are you going to do it again for me? There. Okay, bike moves, you move. Excellent. Okay.
Yeah, so they have various demo bikes like this that are set up to teach certain techniques. You could see that one where the bike would actually lean without falling over. So
Nice. Yeah, we wanna cue this video before it starts playing.
there we go. So again, this is for left and right transitions. It's also talking about what your leverage points on the bike should be so as to not unstable the bike anymore, to destabilize it. And this is also part of using that knee-to-knee transition because you're using your knees as the leverage on the bike. And again, they do combine the two techniques. Really, they teach you a bunch of composite techniques that you'll be using all of them together by the end of the day. So very, very useful stuff. And again, because we practice them individually, it's like any other skill. Let's slow it down and let's practice the actual pieces of the puzzle there. What do you think, Jason? Did they cover it a similar way, or?
Yeah, no, I think this and the knee-to-knee go hand in hand.
Were they still teaching both of them in one session that you learned both at the same time when you did it?
No, so I remember one that was called the pickup drill, where you would be coming out of a turn and you would start accelerating. You would keep your body low, but you would make the bike more upright to get better traction.
Mm-hmm.
And it was called the pick up the bike drill. And you see MotoGP racers do this a lot. You'll see them kind of on a straight while they're still leaned over and the bike is up and down.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that they really ingrain on us. But these are all related. You know, these will all eventually just become one motion.
Yeah, that was something I got picked apart a little bit on my riding. She kept telling me, you know, you're leaning the bike over and you're giving it throttle. And I was going around a corner and I would lean it a little bit more. I would pick it up a little bit, trying to get the line I wanted. And she really picked up on the fact that I was actually applying throttle, trying to drive out, but I'm changing my line while it was a carousel kind of corner where you're kind of constant cornering speed. And I'm trying to pick up the throttle and I'm changing my line. She's like, you don't need to be picking up the throttle until you're actually exiting the corner and doing what Jason's talking about. Start to pick the bike up, give it throttle, and pick the bike up and give it throttle, not just, oh, I'm starting to roll it on a little bit. Pick the bike up and give it throttle. And the BMW with the traction control, I'm still at, well, what would it actually do if I am riding poorly and giving it throttle? What will it actually do? Will it put me on my head? What kind of weird feedback would it give me when I do things bad? Because she's like, stop doing that. Stop giving it throttle while you're still leaning it a little bit further over. So, interesting.
Yeah, the TCS might have been saving you at that point.
Yeah, and I don't have the mental bandwidth to look at the dash and see if the light's flashing or anything else. I mean, I never look at my gauges. I have too much focus on everything else going on. So, one other takeaways from the school are there are certain things they don't let you do. When you go to school, everybody goes to the track and puts a camera on your bike. It's the first thing you do because you want to see what the hell did I actually do. They don't really permit that here. There are ways to get a camera on the bike if you want it. They do not allow suction cup mounts. So if you're traveling to the school and you're like, how am I going to put it on there? Oh, I'll suction cup it to the tank and put a tether on it, right? Nope, they don't allow that. None. They have GoPro mounts already on the bike, and I was emailing Jason about this before I went to the track day, asking him, what's it like? What do they allow? What do they not allow? They do have GoPro mounts, so if you use the standard GoPro, you could take your own and you'd be fine, which is what I did. I took my camera with me, and unfortunately, I took a mount that was 90 degrees wrong, so I would have had a portrait portrait orientation, which is horrible. So I didn't actually use my camera with their mounts. But if you're going to the track day and you want to shoot video, you can rent a camera from them because give them money, they will rent you a camera, and they're enthusiastic about you running a camera. Bring your own camera, and it's like, well, you don't really need this. You need to be focused on the drills. Cameras are external, you shouldn't be focused on that, but so in lieu of having a camera on the bike, you can, the other thing is you can't bring a lap timer. They just forget it, no lap timers. I don't want you looking at a lap timer, I don't want you focusing on lap times, they just flat said no lap timers. I did talk to them and did some negotiation because my lap timer is everything to me. I don't need to see it live, but I want to see my data when I get home. I want to see what my corner entrance speeds are. I want to see if they're higher on my fast laps, if they're lower. It tells me a lot of things after the fact, and I do this at home. I don't have time at the track to do it. I don't have to see it while I'm turning laps, but I want to see the data later. They will rent you a lap timer because they know the value of the lap times. And Jason, this was one, I don't know if you'd had any experience with this because I didn't see anybody actually running one, but I don't know if they let you see the lap times while you're riding or if they tape it over and you can see your lap times at the end of the day when you're done. You know, they give them to you on a spreadsheet or not. So I didn't know if you had any input on that one.
Yeah, so regarding the lap timers, yeah, they won't let you bring one, and in fact, they will tape up the instrument cluster so you can't see your speed. You can only see the revs. But whether it's your bike or their bike, they have a big, chunk of tape taped over the digital displays because they don't want you focusing on your speed.
Yeah.
On the lap times, on all the camps that I did, and maybe it's because it was the camps, at the end of the day, they gave us our lap times because they have, some type of system on each bike similar to like what CMRA uses. And you could see, by bike number and by session number, and then they would sort them by, who was the fastest. So for all of my events that I did, I still keep a printout of all my lap times in case I ever go back to those tracks, and I can see how I improved.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing for me, is just having the record that you can look at over time. Am I actually improving? If I get to go back to these tracks, probably won't happen too often, but that's the main thing for me, is just seeing the progression and the change over time, and learn what I'm learning and what I need to unlearn or learn new.
Sure.
So.
Oh,
There you go.
yeah, do the alt tabbing it, or the command tab. Ah.
Oh.
Yeah, are you hitting command tab?
I think because I actually.
There you go. One more. There you go. Ah, there you go.
Oh, I gotta release the key.
Yes. That's part
Okay,
of it.
don't hold down command. So the way I got around the lap timer issue was, they also don't want to mount something on the bike. I asked them, can I just duct tape it to the tank, all tape over the display? No, we're not going to duct tape a chunk of something to the tank. But the BMW did, it did have a trunk. So it's a battery powered lap timer. I just threw it in the trunk and closed the trunk. I couldn't see it, it's in the trunk, but at the end I could turn it off and it had recorded the GPS. It didn't have to see the sky because it was just the plastic seat, the passenger seat. And I was able to record my lap times that way, and they were okay with that. Because I said, it's not out, I can't see it. You okay with it? Cool. The ignition key, opened the trunk, I didn't have to do anything. No mounting hassles, all I did was throw it in and close it up, all good.
Bounce around.
So,
Yeah.
the other option you have here in level 4 for video, that was the last item I had down there, is in level 4, the instructors, all you do is ask for a camera. Film me in this session. You ask them, they put the camera on the bike, they film you while you're out there. So that worked in level 4. They don't do that in level 3. Because they check out the cameras. You'll go to your coaching session, they will hand you a session cube, one of the little older sessions that they don't make anymore, that Jason and I both have. They will hand that to you and say, give this to your instructor. They will film you while you're out there, and then you bring the camera back in from your coach, and they'll play it on the laptop, and you can also copy the video and take it home with you. Unfortunately, I copied it to my SD card and overwrote it, so by the time I got home, my video was gone. Oh well, live and learn.
So would they follow you for like 4 laps or something, or?
Yeah, they'd follow you probably for 2, maybe 3 laps. It just depended on what was happening with traffic and everything else. Because they had in the levels I was in, they had 4 students, and you have roughly 20 minutes, so you only get so many laps. But I mean, they'll actually follow you right on your ass, because they're right there. You're not going to lose them.
No.
Even when you pass other people, they're like, bam! It's like, okay, pass on the inside, it's all good. But I mean, you get a full lap and you can see what your body is doing because they are so close to you. So, as I'd
Hey,
mentioned.
Michael?
Yeah.
Hey, Michael, yeah, I was going to mention earlier regarding the GoPro and the mounts. So if you haven't done this already, you can buy a grab bag on Amazon. It comes with all kinds of mounts, 90 degrees, horizontal. They'll have like a wrist mount, they'll have a headband mount, and it's good to just keep that for emergencies or for situations like this when either a mount breaks or you're putting in somebody else's bike. They've got the mount turned the other way.
Yeah.
So I think I told Claudia this, you can get these grab bags for cheap, and they range, there's like the $9 option, there's a $20, and then there's, a $50 option that comes with a tripod and all kinds of stuff in cases.
I got it.
So,
Yeah. It's good stuff, except for the floaties. I don't have a need for any
Yeah,
of the
same here.
floaties at this point. No water hazards.
Right.
So there we go. As mentioned, is this your bike, Jason? No, I guess not. I'm not sure where I got this picture. This is what they don't allow you to do with a lap timer. But as I mentioned, I just threw it in the trunk. If you're using the rental bike, throw it in the trunk. It's all good. If you have an infrared lap timer that has to pick up the beacon at start finish, it might not work so well. But if you have a GPS lap timer, this is a no-brainer. Or if, like Claudio, the camera, as long as you can get the camera on the bike, it'll record the GPS, or even better in your case, you got the suit that
Got the
will
suit,
do it for
yeah.
you. So you do have some options to collect that data. In the suit, no problem, there is no feedback or visual display. They don't have any problems with that.
Right.
So, as mentioned, go with suit or put it in the trunk. Trunk worked perfectly. There was plenty of room in there because the lap timer is the size of like a pack of cards, and no problems, even in the smallest trunk, which I gotta say on the BMW, there really wasn't much extra space. But anyway, so if you wanna get GPS lap times, go for it. So when I was there at the school, I'm using the BTT website. I created some goals before I got to the school, but then I realized, well, that's out the window. The school is going to tell you what you're going to do. This isn't you bringing something. So I had to kind of change my format, and the beauty of the BTT website is it works in lots of different scenarios. You can use it different ways, whatever you want to do. So what I did for this was I went to my track days and I went in and I used the debrief functions in there. And I put in how many sessions I was going to have, because we had 5 sessions on track. I put which level I was in to track the data, what bike I was riding, and then I used the debrief mode, and I would go in and set up what was the lesson they gave me to apply. Instead of using the goal, I put it into the debrief. And you could do this for level 1, 2, or 3. Level 4 is different because it's personalized. It's not a fixed curriculum where everybody is learning the same thing. So on the second one, what I did was I went into the debrief, and while I was in class, I would put in what is the drill? And I put in a description down here, what is the drill for my next session? So instead of using it as a debrief, I would use it as a pre-brief.
Okay.
I would go in and I would put what the drill is, and then I put in the track map and whatever else I wanted. And then down here at the bottom, I'd come back and I'd give a true debrief. After I'd done the drill, how did I feel about that? What was the feedback from my coach? So I used the debrief function on the website to track my learning and how I did. The YouTube videos would have been great because I would have had footage from the instructor that I could put in if I managed not to overwrite them. So, and the goal section here I just left blank because the school was defining what the goals were going to be for the session. So it worked very well. I was able to do this on my iPad because we had tons of time between sessions. So went to class, here's the drill, I'd go back and I'd put it in here, then I'd go ride. And then afterwards, I'd come and I'd do my true debrief. How did I feel about it? How did I do? And your instructor will give you feedback on how you did.
Nice.
So that worked well. So then I got to level 4 on the second day, and this was a big game changer. Claudio got some feedback from other people that had been to Superbike School, and one of the comments that kind of resonated with me, one of the feedbacks was they felt that the level 1, 2, and 3 were kind of boring. And that resonated with me because the first time, the third track day I ever did, it's like, oh my God, I'm on a racetrack. I am on a sport bike. I can ride this thing the way it's meant to be ridden. It's all corners all day long. I'd ride on the street 2 hours to get to the corners, and then there's a car slowing me down, and I don't get to go fast through the corners. And this is like a racetrack all day long, and I have to do no brakes drill and go slow. So it kind of drove me nuts. Because you'd go through the whole day doing exercises and learning the fundamentals, which is an important and good thing. But if this is the only track experience you get, you're like, but I want to play. I want to go. But when you get to level 4, there are no more drills. There are no lessons. You go into class, you go in and you work with a coach, and they watch you ride, and they give you feedback on what you need to do from all the things you've learned at level 1, 2, and 3. What are your weak points? What do you need to work on? And then they'll send you out on the track and they'll say, you're going to work on this. They'll give you a drill to do on the track, but now you've combined it with everything else. So you're actually going out on the track and you're trying to ride as well and as functionally as you can with all the tools you've now acquired. So we go out on the track and you're gonna learn what you need. What's my limitation? You get that direct attention. Whereas before it's aimed at everybody in the class, and there's probably 12, 10 people in your class, something like that. So this was really kind of a game changer at this point, because now you're working with a coach who has 4 other students working on you individually. And like I said before, they provide video. If you want to see what you're doing, grab the camera, give it to your coach and say, film me. I want to see what I'm doing in the session. I did that every single session. Here's the camera. I kept coming back with the camera over and over.
Oh, yeah.
And you know, they'd be riding around with the camera running, they'd film the other students as well, so we all got the benefit from that. I'd see 2 laps of me. Some of the other guys I met, Randy saw the laps he did, everybody got to share and take advantage of that, so
Yeah.
worked really well. The other thing in level 4 here are the specialty bikes that you can ride. So remember I was talking about 45 minutes, you're waiting around doing nothing. You can go ride the specialty bikes. The one, I think I'm missing some of the ones here, but these were the ones they had at the school I went to, is the slide bike, where you can actually slide the rear tire of the bike and it won't fall over because it's got the outriggers on it. So you ride it around the paddock area, you'll go around in a circle and you can give it more and more gas till it starts to break free. And like Jason was talking about, you want it to break free while you're starting to stand the bike up so it's controllable. So it was really cool to be able to ride that bike and get that experience, because I'm not a stunter. I don't have the balls to go out and just try it and see if I get away with it or not at the track. Oh, I'll just grab a handful and let it spin. Yeah, not gonna happen. The other bike is this one. You can see the tail section here. This one has a camera, but what it allows is the camera is further away from you. You can see your feet on the bike. You can see your whole body. I often put a camera on the back of the bike to see my body position, but I can only see my upper body.
Yeah.
With that position there, you can really see what you're doing with your whole body. Are you making the triangle with your leg when you're sticking your knee out? You can really see all of what you're doing.
Do they also have that the one bike like for braking, where you can test out like
Yeah.
you know, to figure out when the front wheel will like lock?
Yeah,
so
so
you
it
can
has
learn that feel.
It has outriggers on it, so if you do lock the front tire and it would fall over, the outriggers will prevent. It's a little jarring when you try to do it, and it does fall on one of the outriggers. It's a little harsh. I didn't like it, but
Okay.
yeah, you can get up
better
to
to
that
go
point
down.
and not have the risk, though.
Yeah, exactly.
The other flip side is you can still flip the bike over and do an endo. You know,
Okay.
if you grab the
Oh,
brakes
yeah.
properly to transfer the weight and then stand it on the front, the outriggers don't do anything.
Right.
So,
Okay.
but the whole point was, if you want to lock the front tire up and see what happens when you lock the front, you can experience it without, well, probably not having an ambulance ride. You could still fall off the damn thing and
Right.
have something bad happen. But which ones did you try, Jason, when you went to the school?
And I've actually have some pictures on this, so I'll show you. I did the slide bike. I did they also have one called the lean bike. And again, I'll get into that in my section, but yeah, all those were super useful because you get to do things that normally you just don't want to do, or it's just scary. But you have these training wheels to help you do that.
Yeah. The other one we had was the No BS bike. We've talked about this in these sessions before. You know, that's the bike with the fixed handlebars. They don't actually steer the bike, they're attached to the fairing.
Yeah.
And anyone that tells you you can steer the bike without counter steering, it's bullshit. Because you get on this bike, I'm like bouncing my body, hanging off the side, and I can't get it to turn. It just keeps going straight. Eventually you have to convince yourself, I have to let go of the fixed handlebars and grab the real handlebars, or I'm gonna run out of real estate and crash into something, because you can't do it with your feet. I mean, you can lean off as much as you want, pressure on the peg, it doesn't do anything. So,
Nice.
that one's a bike you don't really learn anything from unless you're convinced that you can steer the bike with your feet.
Okay.
And it will convince you otherwise once you move on to other things. So, So, any other comments there, Jason? Did I miss anything?
No.
Okay. So this was the track I rode. This is the ridge. It's up outside of Seattle. This is the. Okay, so the other section we have up here, this was kind of the corkscrew. It is a very, very slow left hand. I mean very slow, like 20 miles an hour.
Oh wow.
If you can kiss the curb at the top, it ends down here at the bottom, and it is like a 5-story drop.
All right, and we're going counterclockwise.
Yeah, we're going counterclockwise around the track here. Once you get down to here, this is flat through this section. You want to carry your apex out here wide and then back onto the front straight. J-hook works really well in this turn here because you're leaned over so far for so long. What you don't see on this track is the trees have grown in a lot from when the track was constructed. This whole area, there's trees in here. A lot more trees in this section, everything's grown in. This sweeper right here is just really, really long. So that was where I was having problems, where I was giving it throttle while I'm still leaning it over. It's like, I'm not really at the apex yet, and you're starting to pick up the throttle too soon. So
And it also has
What's the
varying
apex?
names.
yeah, what?
What's an apex?
This one,
No, what is an apex?
Yeah, so
oh,
what is
that's where you're
apex?
closest to the track. So normally the apex on this turn is really going to end up being right there. You come in here and you run out really wide, and then you'll apex right in here, which the cameraman usually sits right there. So that was that shot you had on me on the other slide, because I was literally looking at the cameraman, looking through to the next turn. So he's sitting there very much on purpose, because he knows that's as close as you're going to get
That's
to
where you're
him.
exiting the turn.
No, it's like going through the turn, the inside. So before you come up to a turn, you're going to come out
Okay,
wide,
yeah.
and then you're going to come in and hit the apex, which is the most inside of the turn, so you can carry the most speed. And
That's where
then
you're
you'll.
entering and exiting the turn.
Yeah.
Yeah,
To like the middle of the turn.
usually your entrance is right about where 6 is right there. You'll be as wide all the way to this side as you're going to get. And then you start cutting to the apex down here where you're getting close to the opposite side of the track. And you'll put your knee right over the candy stripe there. There are flowers out there growing in the field. You can mow them with your knee if you're that bold. But well, the thing you don't see here is this turn up here is all uphill. This 2 to 3 is seriously, this is like Coda uphill in that first
like
turn.
outlet, where you're.
Yeah, exactly. So there's a lot of elevation change on this track. You get to the top and then you're going downhill again, then you're going back uphill through this section. So the thing you lose on the map here is all the elevation changes on this track. And there are a lot of them. One thing I use as reference points is a lot of trees. Like you're looking at the exit coming out of this turn here. There's a tree right over here that when you're in turn 8, you'll be spotting the tree over here to know where to exit. So lots of trees to use as poles to mark visual references. So that helped quite a bit. This 110, this is cresting a hill, so it's blind going up here, and then you crest the top of the hill and you're going into 11 after that, so it's blind up to that point. So it was fun. I really like this because I got to ride a track I'm probably never going to get back to because it's so far away.
This is in Washington, or?
Yeah, it's outside of Seattle.
Nice.
So, I flew into Portland for my cousin's wedding, and after her wedding, I went to trackdays.
Oh, sweet.
And then I flew back out of Seattle. So I marked one more off my list of tracks I've been to in the United States.
Nice.
So it was good stuff. So in level 4 here, we have our picture of Jason with Keith Code. When I did my session, initially I came in and they mixed up Michael's. I go by Michael. The other guy went by Mike, and I don't know, Keith just said Michael because he was looking on the list. And because he couldn't find the other guy. The other guy hadn't showed up. He was off doing something else. So I sat down with Keith and we started doing our sessions, and then found out, oh, I'm with the wrong coach here. So Jason may have spent more time with Keith there. Anyway. So in level 4, you have your on-track coach and you have your training consultant. So when you get off the track, you go into the tent and you meet with your consultant. And your consultant, well, let me start. You go out first on the track with your coach. Your coach follows you around and says, you need to work on this. This is the biggest thing that you could improve in your riding. Your coach gives you feedback on a little piece of paper, and you take the piece of paper over to your training consultant and say, this is what she saw you doing. What are you going to do to fix that? So you'll talk about it with your coach or with your training consultant, and your training consultant has this book of like 100 different drills. Some are visual skills, some are body position, some are just like the pick the bike up drill. They have special ones for very specific problems. There's about 100 different drills in this book. I could not find a listing of this anywhere online. The instructors have these books with all these drills. I can't find them anywhere online, so they do not publish these. These are trade secrets. So you'd sit down with your consultant and they would say, okay, so you're running wide in this turn. You need to look through the corner. You need to do the, what's it called, the multi-point. You look at your entry point, you look at your apex, you look at your apex. You need to keep your visual distance moving, so that would be one drill. And they say, you're going to go out, give this to your instructor, this is what you're going to do, and they're going to evaluate you on that and then say, you need to correct this about what you're doing, or maybe we'll move on to something else based on how well you did with it. So this is where level 4 is different, because this is all about you. Yes, you have classmates, but they're not going to be working on the same thing as you, because everybody's different at this point. Once you get to level 4, you're a level 4. Every time you go back to the school, you're a level 4. You could go and do the other ones if you want to sign up, but I got to tell you, you'll reinforce and fix any of the other lessons that you didn't get right at this point. There was a gal at the school that's been here 68 times in 10 years in level 4. She was riding an HP4 with a carbon frame, and she had a second S1000 as a backup bike. So she goes everywhere, but envy.
That's
like,
the life, man. That's the life.
what's your favorite track? Tell me, because it's going to take me more than 10 years to even get to all the tracks. So, anything else you guys did in class, Jason, when you did it? Pretty much the same program, or?
No, everything you described is exactly what I experienced, other than maybe additional track time and a lower student to coach ratio.
So this is where there's one of the differences. So talk about that a little bit. I did the single day drill with the 4 coaches. What were some of the differences with the 2-day camp? I know you had more sessions, but I've never done one, so it's kind of new territory for me.
Well, one thing that, and I don't know if you did this, and I've got a video, I'll show it here in my session, is everybody gets to go on the video bike at least once per day. So I was on it twice, on the Saturday and the Sunday, and it's that same bike that you had the picture of with that frame, that outrigger frame.
Yeah.
And then not only do you got to go on the video bike, but then you met with a video consultant, and he would analyze all the telemetry. You guys are going to get to see a YouTube of all that. So it's not just your lap time, but the throttle, the brakes, lean angle, and of course the video is all superimposed. And he'll say, hey, you got on the gas too early here, or you didn't brake hard enough, and he just shows you all the segments, and then he'll give you what they call them, the prescriptions, right, of what you're supposed to work on, drills. Which is what you hand over to the track marshal before you go out on every session. So you never go out in California Superbike School on a session unless you're actually working on something. They won't let you out. Trevor, the marshal, or whoever's taking his place, he will come to you and say, okay, he's got a clipboard which matches the prescription that you were given. And he says, okay, Jason, what are you working on? And I'll say, well, I'm working on pick up the bike drill. He's like, okay, yeah, that matches, all right, you can go. And he goes to the next person. All right, Michael, what are you working on? So you never go out blindly And if you try to do that, that's when you get kicked out. So it really is a school.
Yeah.
You're not there to set any personal bests or anything.
Yeah. So you definitely come away learning some lessons there.
Oh, yeah.
Sweet.
Okay, so that's what level 4 looks like. This is my last slide, and then I'll turn it back over to Jason. So, like I said before, this is level 4. I've arrived at level 4. When I go back, I will be in level 4 riding their bike, and my plans for the future, I want to try to do at least one school a year. This was my first one since like 2013, so it's been a while. Largely because of the cost involved. But the beauty is they rent you the bike, so you can go to any of the tracks they go to. They'll provide the bike. You don't have to figure out how am I going to get in the trailer, how long is it going to take me to get there, how much time do I have to take off work.
Yeah.
You get an airplane ticket, you show up, you take your helmet and your suit. You could rent gear. If you have the money, you could rent a helmet, all the gear you need. All you got to do is get on an airplane and show up. So that's another option. For me, cost is significant. I'm always going to do 2 days. If I'm flying there and back, I'm going to be there. If they had 3 days, I'd be there 3 days because I could better combine the costs there. I get airline miles on my card, so I put everything on my credit card, and then I have my miles I can use. So that'll help with it. But my goal is to do at least one new track a year, unless I have a major favorite track that I really want to go back to. But so I'm also getting to experience, the United States and all the different tracks that are out there on the best superbike I can possibly be on, because I'm not likely to buy one at this point. I don't know if Jason had a similar experience, but after I went to the Superbike School the first time, the first thing I did was checking Craigslist for BMW S1000s. I'm like, oh man, that's too much. So, but after asking around, Keith Code's favorite track is VIR. Can't remember her name, the one that's done the 68 schools. She said VIR was her favorite track. Most of the coaches said we like VIR. So I think for next year, that's kind of what I'm looking at. The other one I really want to do is Corvette Motorsports Museum in Kentucky. The track looks really awesome. And the Corvette Museum's right there and everything else. That seems like a decent destination, so that'll probably be my second pick. So anyway, if there's an opportunity you want to go, just let me know. Maybe we can coordinate the days and share camera footage and other things and get out there. But I saw people level 1, relatively new riders that have only been riding for a year, and then they're like grizzled veterans like me that have been riding since they were 12 years old but haven't learned anything yet. So
So when you're level 4 and you come back, so you said all the levels ride together, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's a 20-minute session where everybody's riding together, and then the track is dead for like almost an hour.
No,
Like
so
everybody
they
comes
break everybody up into different colored groups. There's a white group, a green group, and a yellow group. At least at the one I was at. Maybe it's a little different on the camp days, but they just literally break everybody up into groups. As you go into the first day in the orientation riders meeting, they hand it out. You're white, you're yellow, you're green, and it's just kind of random. So they're all mixed
So there's
together.
still 3 groups.
So
and
there's
the track
still
is almost
3
always
groups
hot.
running
Yeah.
all the time. Yeah.
Okay.
So you do your 20 minutes, and then there's about 40 minutes. Just okay. Because when we do the consultant sessions in level 4, you go into the tent and you meet with your consultant, and they're working individually with 4 different people. So you get your feedback, and it's maybe 5 or 10 minutes of that time is all it really takes. I'd always sit there and listen to what other people were working on and learn what they're learning from.
Yeah, maybe that'll help.
Yeah, and watch the videos as well. So I'd stay there longer than that. But there's a lot of downtime. So maybe less with Jason when having 7 sessions and everything else. So anyway, let me switch this back over because Jason, you had some things to share here. Which one?
Yeah,
am I
just give me a minute. I'm gonna upload my presentation.
Okay. How are we gonna do it? You're gonna share your screen with us?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, should I maximize it here? Does it go bigger?
Just bring it back to Teams.
Okay. Oh, you mean canceling the screen share, right? Michael, see that one little square with the X?
Oh.
Sort of like center?
That one?
Yeah, that one.
Okay.
Okay.
I hit it. Is there something
Yeah, I
else?
think that's it. Now, I think when
Yeah, it's loading. Just give it a minute. It'll come up here in a few seconds.
Turn.
Alright.
Let me know when you can see it.
Yeah, it's spinning. There we go.
There we can see you. Good old number 934.
That's right. Okay, so hello everyone. My name is Jason Chain, CMRA number 934. Very passionate about track days and racing. I'm relatively new to the sport compared to some of you guys that have been riding, your whole lives. I got into this late in my 40s, and after my first track day, I was hooked. So the friend that got me into track day riding, he told me, look, if you're really interested and you want to get better, you have to go to a real school. And I said, well, what do you mean? I had just done a track day with Ride Smart, and I've gone through their classroom training, and I thought that was normal. I thought that's a school. And he laughed and he said, no, Ride Smart is like community college. You need to go to California Superbike School. That's like Harvard. And he was absolutely right. And if you guys ever have the chance to do that, you'll see why. So I'm going to take a little bit different approach from Michael. I'm going to show you, I've got a whole slideshow here, pictures. I'll try to keep it here within less than 45 minutes so we can all get out. And then answer any questions that you have along the way. So I've done a total of 4 of the weekend events, the camps. And yes, they are expensive, and with that amount of money, I probably could have bought a motorcycle by now, but I tell you, it is worth every single penny. And I'm glad I've done all those sessions, and I'm looking forward, and I'm saving up so I can go again next year, because it is worth it. It seems like a lot of money, but until you go and experience a real school and the knowledge that you get, it's hard to convince people. So anyway, let's start by looking at my first day, or my first event, which was in 2013. This was my second track day, and I was telling Michael the other day, I never spent a whole lot of time on the street. I think I rode on the street for maybe 6 months. When I first learned to ride a motorcycle around the block in my house with an old dirt bike. And before I went to this track day, and then I got hooked. So luckily I didn't have too many bad habits. I had no habits. I was brand new. So I was able to grow up, so to speak, on the track, which was very fortunate. So this is a Streets of Willow, where I believe this is their home track. They do the majority of their events at this track. And at the time I didn't know that. I just picked whatever I could find that fit with my calendar. But it's a great track to learn on because it's relatively small. It's got a ton of corners. It has elevation changes. It's got carousels, left, rights, sweepers, chicanes. For learning, it's awesome. So if you're interested and you want to go out to California, which by the way is beautiful, you can see the scenery here. That is the track that you're looking at.
Yeah.
And if you see on the upper left, the track is split into 2. So similar to Crescent, where they have the little track and the big track, and then sometimes they combine them. The Streets of Willow is like that too. They have the big track, which is on the left side, and you can see up on the hill on the left corner, and then the little track, what they call the Streets, on the right, which is still plenty big. But it's you have that choice, and I don't believe that Superbike School does the big track. In fact, I don't know if they even allow motorcycles on it. But regardless to say, it was awesome. And then you can see all the bikes lined up there. Back in 2013, this was it would have been the 2013 or 2014 BMW model. They always have the latest model for you to ride. So that's another benefit, that you're not getting used or old equipment. You're getting the latest BMWs, and they only do BMWs, except in Europe. I think in Europe they have some cities have Ducatis or Yamahas. Okay, so I'm going to talk about this first track day, or this first school event. So I got to meet Keith, and I had been reading the book, The Flip of the Wrist, or Twist of the Wrist. So it was exciting to meet the man, the myth, and get to talk to him, the most down-to-earth guy, just super laid back. And he reminds me a lot of Obi-Wan Kenobi, not only because of the way that he looks. He looks like Obi-Wan, but in his wisdom and how he spoke, and he would just give you a few words, and it would just, you'd see the light bulb go off, and he knew exactly what to tell you based on what you were doing. Even though he wasn't your coach, he would get the feedback from your coach. And then when I did the event, everybody got a chance to go talk to Keith and get his insights. So incredible guy. If you get a chance to do one of these events, hopefully he'll be there and you'll get to meet him. Here is a picture of all the bikes, the yellow bikes. Some were the instructors, some were, and I'm going to show you here in a minute, the specialty bikes like the slider bike or the novice bike, which is the one that Michael talked about that has the 2 handlebars, and it proves that using your body will not make the bike steer. And then they lay them all out, and everybody has a number. And you can see the gray one between the yellow bikes here at the forefront. That's the video bike. So it's got that frame that gives you the whole picture. And we'll look at that one here in a little bit. So here is another type of slider bike. There's both of them here on the picture. The one in the background is the one that you saw Michael in his presentation.
Right.
And then here is this. I think they still call it the slider bike, but it serves slightly different purpose because the outriggers are coming from the top of the bike, so you can't slide as much as the one that you see in the background because it's very limited. It has a limited scope or range of sliding, so they use it for different types of drills. Here's another view of that same bike. And then in the very back, you'll see another bike that they call the lean bike, which is right here. And this is super cool. So that's another neat thing about Superbike School that I haven't seen anywhere else, is that they're innovators, right? They don't just have the best teachers and the best curriculum, in my opinion, but they innovate for the sport. They do all kinds of stuff that nobody's done before when it comes to teaching and what they call their pedagogy of how they teach the art of cornering. And you can see these 2 gas cylinders in the back of this machine, this contraption. So it's an old beat up crashed BMW that they have laying around, and they retrofitted it with these hydraulic pistons. So you get on the bike, and it's the only best analogy I have is think of like one of those mechanical bulls, right, where there's a guy with a remote control.
Yep.
And you hop on, and he says, okay, we're going to lean you to the left. So then the whole machine mechanically leans over to the left using these hydraulic pistons about 60 degrees, right? So like maximum lean. And then they work with you on body position, while you're at lean. And that's the difference, that most of the schools, like if you go to RiceMart or any other school, and if you're trying to just practice it at home, the bike is upright, right? It's on a stand. And then they're saying, okay, now lean over to the left, and you kind of get a feel. But this thing is actually leaned over while you're working on your body position. So that's what's very unique. And then they'll flip it over to the right very quickly, and you have to hang on with your body or it'll buck you off. So, and Michael, I don't know if you got to do that when you did the one day?
No, they didn't have it there. I think this one, because of the cart and everything, is only for the camps.
Okay, so that's the other advantage of what you get. You pay a little bit extra, but you get access to all these goodies. So my first time out, and still learning, and I was so new that I didn't understand a lot of these concepts. The majority of what they were throwing at me was just going over my head. you know, I had never leaned the bike. I was still learning just to stay upright while I was turning. I didn't know about counter steering. I almost crashed one time because I was going at relatively good speed and I had to turn right. And I thought it was like a bicycle, and I turned it right and it started going left. So I had an almost painful lesson on counter steering. So all of this was just blowing me away that, you know, here I was coming from RideSmart, and, you know, coming to this, it was just a huge step. So my brain was definitely full. So here's a picture of me at the end of the last day, you know, going as fast as I could on the turn, which for me was crazy, right? Because what's in your head, and then when you look at the picture,
Yeah.
you know, in my head, I was leaned over, about to drag my elbow, you know, Mark Marquez, and then I look at the picture and I'm like, yeah,
Some room to go.
not quite. And every group always has the slowest rider, you know, the less experienced rider, and that was me. So at this event, I was the slowest rider, the one that was getting passed by everybody. And so I've been there, you know, we've all been there at some point.
Yep.
So that was me, and we're gonna come back to this picture because I'm gonna show you some comparisons of my evolution. Before I go on to my next event, any other questions?
So far, so good.
So what was your daily rider bike at that point for this picture at home?
It was a Monster 796.
Oh,
A
wow.
Ducati Monster, yeah. But I had just come off of a Yamaha 250 TWR. It was actually a 200, I think. A TW 200, those big knobby
Yeah.
tires.
I worked at a motorcycle shop. We had one of those, and they actually let me ride that bike. I loved that bike. It was just so user-friendly. It was awesome.
Yeah, that's what I learned on. That's why I bought it.
They still make them 30 years later.
Huh.
They do, yep. Okay, so then moving on to my next event. So then the following year, I went to Laguna Seca. And
Oh, wow.
this was just amazing. I mean, you can see in the scenery, that's me right there. You can see I bought a suit by then. I had my own helmet before I was renting everything. So,
Holy crap, dude. Both wheels are off the ground, or just the front?
Just one.
no, it's just the front, and that was accidental. I did not mean to do that. When I looked at the picture after, I was like, holy shit, that I actually did a wheelie. I'd never done that before. So it was not planned.
It looks like you're jumping over the hill like Isle of Man or something. Holy
But that
crap.
scenery, I mean, I'm telling you guys, if you've never done Laguna, you absolutely have to put it on your bucket list. It doesn't have to be California Superbike, they do other track days,
Right.
but it's as iconic and as beautiful as you see it on the MotoGP and on TV for Moto America and World Superbike.
Right.
It's incredible, and this is the hill right before you go into the corkscrew, which I think I've got here coming up in a few. I did want to show you what the typical post-session looks like. So that's my coach right there, Kyle. And I always ask for him every time I go back. He's always there. I always ask for Kyle because he's seen me grow in my journey. And you basically sit down, and it's just you and the coach. There was one other student who you'll recognize here in a minute. And he's, I have no idea what he was telling me at that point, probably something about, leaning or I forget. But we sit there for, about 20 minutes. He says, okay, here's what I saw you do, here's what I want you to work on. And then he'll hand you what they call the prescription. So I don't know if you guys recognize
Oh,
this guy.
yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
Bad.
So that's Papa, also known as Patrick. And he was there with me that day. I had seen him before at RideSmart, in that one track day I did.
Yeah.
So we recognized each other, and we were both working on different things. I was still new. Of course, he's much more advanced. He was coming, I think he was doing his level 4. And you can see handing him right there his Post-it. It's just a little Post-it note that says, I'm going to work on this drill. And that's what Michael alluded to earlier, that everybody goes out and they're working on one thing, right? They always give you at most maybe 2 things, because they're going to hammer you when you get back. they'll say, hey, I saw you do this. What did you think you did? You know, how did it feel like? And they grill you. I mean, I felt grilled when I came back from the session. I was exhausted, but Kyle was just saying, okay, why did you do that? You know, you were supposed to work on this. I didn't see you do that. What was going through your head? And it was just like an interrogation, but it really ingrained in me, you know, these drills and what he was trying to teach me, unlike any other type of learning that I had done, because they really want you to learn. And Kyle, just like all the other instructors, not only is he crazy fast, and he's an ex-Moto America racer, he loves to teach, and he has a passion for writing, and he just gets his satisfaction from seeing his students improve. And I think that's unique in this school, because all the instructors, everybody that you talk to, they'll tell you a similar story, that the teachers and the coaches that they bring on just have a passion for teaching, in addition to being extremely talented with motorcycles. So let me pause there. Any questions so far?
Oh, that's great.
And by the way, my first time that I went out, not here at Laguna, but in my first event, and Kyle was my coach, I clearly remember him writing down in my prescription, my drill, it was, don't fall off the motorcycle, Jason. That was my goal. And then when I came back, you know, I think after lunch, my drill was get on the gas. And that's it. He just said, I just want you to get on the gas, because you're out there driving like Miss Daisy. So get on the gas. And then, so I did that. And then the last session of the day, he again wrote down, don't fall off the motorcycle. So those were the two things that I was working on my second track day. So not only are these guys good, but they have a great sense of humor. Nice. So like I said, you get your money's worth.
Yeah, and they are trained to teach, and that's a different thing, having somebody that knows how to do something is trying to convey it to someone that doesn't, versus someone that knows how to teach. They'll frequently ask questions at the end. What do you think is going to happen if you do that? Not just they told you do this because it's the right thing. They make you internalize it and understand why you're doing it. So I really noticed that with all the different people I worked with anyway.
Yeah, that's a great point, Michael. So they don't just want to give you a drill so that you practice it blindly. They want you to know why they're telling you to do that drill, and the cause and effect on the motorcycle. So that actually reminds me of one of the drills that we worked on, and on the throttle. And you know, they were saying, you know, you want to maintain your throttle steady and not chop the throttle on the turns. And I did that, and then he says, well, why do you think, now that you've done the drill, why do you think we tell you to do that and not chop the throttle on the turns? And I said, well, I don't know, but I would think it has something to do with, you know, disrupting the bike. But that's to the extent of my knowledge. I didn't know. And he says, well, you're kind of on the right track, and it's because your throttle acts as almost like your suspension. When you get on the gas, the weight is going to move to the rear. You're going to lose traction on the front. And similarly, when you get on the brakes, you lose traction on the rear because all the weight's on the front. So with your throttle, you're kind of modulating your suspension, and nowhere is it more important than when you're cornering, right? When you're at lean, you absolutely cannot be upsetting that chassis because you will crash. And if I had read that in a book or seen it on a video, I would have forgotten it. But because he made me think, you know, this is why these things happen, and this is why we're telling you to do these things, because they're just time proven. We've been doing this for so many years, and we've seen it, and we know all the physics behind it. And then it just all clicked, and then you remembered it. And I've never forgotten that lesson. Here's Keith and his son Dylan. So you'll see Dylan there a lot. He's like the, you know, kind of the orchestrator who coordinates all the students and where they need to be and with whom and all the drills. But he also does a ton of research. So at this, I don't have a picture of it. I wish I had taken of it. But they have this tiny little camera that they put on your helmet, and it tracks your vision. It tracks your eyes.
Oh wow!
And there may be a video on YouTube about this, but he was showing the difference between a racer, right, a pro racer, of how their eyeballs move versus an amateur. And he showed us on the video the comparison. The average amateur, their eyes are going like this, right to left all the time, just scanning, constantly moving over. And then he showed the pro racer, and their eyes were just straight. You know, they would occasionally blink, but there was no eyeballing left and right. And he says the reason for that, and even the racers may not have known why they were doing that, but we've shown it scientifically, is that when you scan right to left or left to right quickly, you're temporarily blinded because your brain can't keep up with that blur when your eyes go left to right. And you can try this, you'll see that he's right. When you're scanning left to right, you're blind. And you know, those are the kinds of things that Dylan does, you know, the kind of research that goes beyond just, you know, body position and brakes and throttle. I mean, he looks into the psychology, you know, the eyes. I mean, they do all kinds of crazy stuff that's years ahead of everybody else. Okay, so here's the corkscrew. And what I wanted to show you in this picture is that there's my instructor there at the top. And that was me and the other student. It wasn't Patrick, I think we had split up the next day. And they're always either following you or you're following them, right? You're never out there on your own. The instructor's always on you, whether because he's watching you do the drill or he's trying to show you what the drill is. So you're never out there on your own just having a good time, you know, trying to set a personal best. And they'll call you on it, like I mentioned earlier. You're there to learn, and if you don't fall into that model, then this is not the school for you. Keith will come and tell you and, you know, wish you goodbye. So here's another view of that. It's actually more like a 50-foot drop. It's hard to see it from this picture, but it's scary. When you come up on that hill and you look down, I mean, it's, think of the altitude of, or the elevation at Coda on turn 1, except it's much more compressed. Again, here another picture, so I'm following the instructor, and then in the background you see some other students. This is I think this is the front straight going into the first left-hander. Okay, so now let me tell you about Barbara. So this was my 4th time. I actually did go back in 2015, but I only found a couple of pictures. I went back to Willow Streets in 2015. And then here I came to Barber. This was back in 2016. This is a picture of one of the many sculptures, or just these wacky, weird sculptures that they have spread out throughout the track. It's very unique to Barber. If you've never been, you definitely want to keep an eye out and look for these little sculptures that they've done, which are pretty hilarious and they have a sense of humor. So here, this is a good picture of the class size. I think at most that weekend we had maybe 28 people, 30 max. And look at all the instructors, right? And you see why it's a 2-to-1 ratio. So you have 2 groups, right? There's what they call the yellow group or the white group, or group 1 or 2. And you know, the same coach will teach both groups back to back. So these guys are maniacs. I mean, they will be on track for 7 hours nonstop, and that's how good they are. And then in the middle there, the guy raising his hand, that's the mechanic. I forget his name. And then Trevor is the guy to his right. He's the track marshal, and then to the right of him is Dylan. And then all the other instructors. It's hard for me to make out their faces, but you'll get to know everybody, right? If you're there for the weekend, you'll sit down with them at lunch, you'll sit down with them at breaks, you know, you'll learn about their stories and how they got there, and you also get to be friends with everybody because you're spending a lot of time together. So that just shows you how small our group was. Any questions so far?
So they actually taught at the museum?
No, this isn't the museum. The museum is actually across. You can see it. Well, you can't really see it here. It's maybe on the far left corner. It's across from the track on the other side. You kind of have to drive to it.
Okay.
It has a different entrance. This was on just the facilities that they have for They have the vents and things.
Back where the garages are.
The garages were underneath us, so we're on the second floor here.
Okay.
Yeah.
So kind of like Coda, you know how Coda has those rooms?
Yeah.
Yeah, same thing. They'll rent them out when there's a big race. They'll have sponsors and they'll do cocktails and they'll put up big screens and things, just like Coda. And then the bleachers are on the other side. You can't really see them from here. But that's the front straight in the background. Oh no, wait, actually I think that's the parking lot in the background and the front straight's on the other window.
Oh.
Yeah, it is, and that's the gas station up there.
Yeah, it's hard to make it out.
Yeah.
But when I pulled up into Barber, and I think I may have told some of you guys this, I thought I was in the wrong place because it looks like a golf course.
Yeah.
The most manicured, I mean, it looks like,
It's awesome.
you know, Augusta. Everything is perfectly manicured and bright green and flowers everywhere. And you pull up and you think, you know, is this, you know, am I in the right place? Because this does not look like a track, especially the tracks that we're used to.
Yeah.
Even Coda is as beautiful and pristine as it is. When you go to Barber, you'll tell yourself, man, I've been missing out.
Yeah.
It's like Disney bought a racetrack and turned it
It
into a
is.
resort.
It is.
Just
Yeah.
for riding.
Yep. Check time. Okay, let me keep moving here. This is, I forget her name. I think it's either Stacy. Does she look familiar? Was she at your event, Michael?
No, I don't recognize her.
Okay, so she was the one, they call her the Wrangler. So she was the one that would tell everybody where they had to be, you know, if it was your lunchtime, if you had to be in a session with your school, if you had to be on the video bike or the slide bike, she would come and find you. So they told you at the beginning of the day, you know, whatever Stacy says, you know, she's your mom, this weekend you have to listen because that's how she coordinates everything. So she would get after all of us and say, hey, you're not supposed to be here, you know, or you missed this session, we were waiting for you, don't do that again. I mean, she would scold you for not being precisely on schedule because she runs a very tight ship. And I've seen her before, but sometimes you'll have other people that play that Wrangler role.
Yep.
But for the most part, the people that you meet, whether you go to Virginia or Barber or even Coda, and I'm going to talk about Coda here in a minute, it's always the same people. Some of them are full-time staff, some of them are part-time, but they'll get to know you, they'll remember you. Oh yeah, you were the guy with the Ducati leathers, and you know, how's that that drill going? I mean, it's incredible how many students they have and they still remember you. So this is me there on bike 14, and there's my coach, Kyle, showing off. He was passing me on the outside on turn 6 because he was trying to show me that I could put a lot more lean on that turn. And I think at this point, I don't think I had even dragged my knee yet. So I was still learning, you know, I was still a little bit shaky and you know, I didn't have confidence yet. I was still trying to really understand what the sport was all about. So he was proving to me that, hey, I'm going to pass you on the outside, dragging my knee, and I'm going to make it look like it's nothing. And he did. And luckily there was a camera guy that caught it. But that just shows you how good these guys are. Like Michael said, if you pass somebody, they'll be right there on your tail and pass them either on the inside or the outside. They'll never let students get in between you and the instructor.
And you'll see in this picture right there, in his steering stem, you will see a pen sticking out of it.
Oh yeah,
You can
right.
just see it here in this picture.
That's right.
You can't see his tank because his head's covering it, but he's got a sheet of paper there.
That's right. And they will pull over and write down notes. You know, bike 14, Jason, he was doing this, and he needs to work on these other things. And you know, that's how they teach. You know.
It's very professional. Very professional.
Yep, absolutely. Here is a picture of the video bike that I rode. And I'm going to exit out of the sharing, and Claudia, if you can click on the button, you'll get to see my video on this bike, the lap. It's about 3 minutes long, and you'll see the angle. And then I also want you to pay attention to the telemetry that's captured by this video bike.
Just a second.
And you can play it, you don't need to share it, just let me know when it's done.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, let me just go full screen
So
here.
is this their telemetry from the bikes? I see brake position and throttle position and
Yeah,
everything. It
so
looks
it's all
pretty
integrated, it's one
comprehensive.
system, the camera and the telemetry all goes into one CPU. I don't know if it's the AIM solo system, it could be.
Yeah, it
So
could.
all this is captured into an SD card, and then you play it back later with the video bike coach.
Hmm.
Okay. All right, I'm hitting play now.
Okay?
It's like a video game.
It does look like a video game. Jason, it looks like you were doing the opposite of what I used to do on the beginning, where on the beginning I would like move my butt off the seat on right corners, but not at all left corners. On this video, you seem to be doing the opposite, right? You move your body off the bike on left corners, but not on right.
Yeah, that's true.
Interesting.
Well, there's also the camera perspective too, a little bit, because you're not centered on the bike. It's actually off to the right side.
That's true.
So
yes.
it does distort a little bit. But I think you're right.
It
I
came
don't
off
see
good
the
that
movement.
time, but yeah.
I remember watching all my videos, you could see like from behind, like I was like moving my upper body, but never
Yeah.
sliding off.
Like there, he's not getting over really, but
Right,
one of the earlier turns he did hang off.
right.
Cool track.
This track is awesome.
Yeah, it looks like a
Yeah.
golf course, man. It is
Yeah.
so
And
pristine.
they just resurfaced.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah,
Oh,
Yeah, they had IndyCar there. It was freaking sweet.
yeah, this track is something else.
It's like a wishbone kind of, the picture of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can stop it if you want now, Claudio.
All right. All right. Get you back on the screen here. All right. You're back on.
Okay, so a couple of things that you noticed in that video, obviously how beautiful the track is, right? And how pristine and the surface, everything. I mean, the surface is just like Coda, except you've got this incredible background all around you.
Yeah.
And this greenery and, you know, it's amazing. And all the elevation changes. The second thing to notice is the telemetry. And this is a super valuable tool for a teacher, because when I sat down with a coach, he didn't have to guess. Like sometimes when you're following someone, it's hard to tell when they're on the brakes or on the gas. You know, a good teacher like Ty, he can hear it, you know, and he just gets up so close and he can see you. But here, I mean, there's no mistake. You know, he could see exactly when I was getting on the brakes, when I was getting on the gas, and he would write down, okay, I want you to work on just corner 2, you know, get on the brakes later, and I want you to get on the gas earlier as you're going back up the hill, and just work on those 2 things. And he didn't overwhelm me with stuff, you know, and your body position, all that. He just gave me 2 things based on what he saw. And then I worked on those 2 things, and it fixed a bunch of other things on other terms. And that's how good these guys are, because they'll pinpoint exactly what your problem is, give you those very specific things to work on, and then you see the improvement across all of your riding. So I didn't have to go and work on those things on corner 7, 10, 11. It just happened naturally because I was working on the turn 2. Okay, now let's move on to Coda and then we'll be done. So I did the one and only time and probably the last time that CSS has been to Coda. They told me they're not going to come back again because it's just not profitable. It's too expensive, and you know they weren't making money, so they're not going to do it again unless Coda drops the price. So that's me there in my bike. So because it was in Austin, I decided just to bring my own bike, and I was starting to get it all prepped, so I wanted to get experience on my own bike. This was the first time of me riding my bike, my new BMW, which I bought, by the way, because of California Superbike School. I love those bikes so much that I came back one day and just said, screw it, I'm gonna buy one. So that's my bike there. I think this guy had climbed up all the way to the top of the tower to take these pictures, which is a really unique angle. I've never seen Blair do that.
Yeah.
So I bought the picture. But it's the same thing, right? There's the instructor, there's Kyle, and the other student, and that's me in the background, still with my Ducati suit and my new BMW. And, you know, I think probably my best time that day was maybe 2:50, you know, or 2:55, because I was not out there to break any records. You know, I was out there to learn, and they wanted me to focus on specific things, and I was perfectly okay with that, right? I didn't go out there with the mindset of a personal best. I went out there with the mindset of learning and, you know, having the fundamentals and the right principles. And then the next time that I went out, you know, I was in the low 40s, and then the time after that I was in 30s. So you don't need to rush these things, right? Your speed will drop, and that leads me into my conclusion of what have I learned from this school, and it's just absolutely clear that I was improving. Every time I went, I would come back, and if you measure improvement by lap times, my lap times would drop. But also my body position was getting better. And I was getting more confident, so I was doing things that scared me at first, and now were becoming more natural. And then more importantly, it just brought me more awareness about the sport, of what was possible. It brought me into you know, working on my bike. You know, we did a whole session on this, on wrenching. It gave me the confidence to try new things, and I attribute a lot of that to my conversations with the coaches, with other people there at the school. And of course, you know, I can't discount the seat time in the Texas tracks, which are also extremely valuable. So then looking at this in pictures, because you know, it's hard to show a lap time in a picture, there's my very first event there in 2013, which I thought, man, I'm about to die because I'm going so fast on this turn. But little did I know that I could probably go 30 miles per hour faster, right? And then there's another picture from that same turn. That's at Willow Streets. It's the same exact turn 2 years later. Still not quite dragging my knee, but you know, better body position, more lean, and I was going faster. And then ultimately, last year, here's a picture of me at Coda, where I put everything together, all the learnings. You know, all of this evolved into not just better body position, but faster lap times, safer, just all around, you know, improvement. And that's it. That's my presentation. Any questions?
Awesome. Hey, I do have a question, Jason. So when I went to the last Superbike school, they had photography there. So they were snapping pictures, and you can look after the fact and check out the photos. How much were the photos at some of the other schools? How much did they charge? I'm guessing
so that's
not Blair.
I'm glad you brought that up, and it showed me how lucky we are to have Blair. And I've told him this. I've told him, hey, you need to charge more for your pictures, because at these other events, so like the pictures that I showed you earlier, let me see, like this one here from this photographer, and then the ones from Barber. They charge you $150 for a CD. It's not even electronically delivered. The guy has to burn the CD there at the event. or it's like $20 per picture. I mean, it's just ridiculously expensive. And honestly, the pictures aren't as good as Blair's. So we are getting a heck of a deal, you know, that you can buy all of your pictures for a track day for less than $50.
Yeah.
And in high resolution, and you can download them digitally.
Yeah.
Here I have to upload everything from a CD. I have to find an old CD drive to plug in because none of my computers have CD drives anymore.
Oh God, yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right.
But we're very lucky to have Blair because he's a great photographer. He's an awesome person.
Yeah.
And he's the lowest cost photographer of any event that I've been to.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I was at Seattle, it was the same thing. It was $100 for one day or $150 for 2 days, and it's still, you had to get them on a DVD. They provided it, fortunately, but I don't have anything I could read it on.
Yeah, why wouldn't they do an MSD? Like, that doesn't make any sense. It's a little stick or something.
Yeah.
That's pretty bad.
Now the video from the video bike they gave me on a USB stick, that was free. They didn't charge me for that.
Oh, that's good.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, I really like that it's actually tied into the braking too, because that's something with my data logger, if I could get it to work with my Daytona, I still don't have brake pressure, because there's no brake pressure sensor. I mean, I could add one.
The only way you're going to get the brake pressure is if you're equipped with an ABS unit, and that ABS unit is one of the modern ones that's tied to the ECU,
Yeah.
and that's how you get the brake pressure.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's just going to be an on-off switch.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Okay.
Great presentation.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome, guys. Thank you so
Yeah,
much
thanks.
for putting this all together. This is
It's cool to see all the
top-notch
different
stuff.
events.
Yeah.
VIR 2020.
Yeah, it's very informative.
Man, yeah. This is good.
Hey, and Claudio, now you know that you can have a guest speaker remotely.
That's right.
So
Yeah.
let's try to get NASCAR.
Yeah, start reaching out to reaching out to these guys and see who we can get on the hook here.
Well, it looks like this is
Guy
your
from
first
Life
rodeo.
Lean.
Right. What was that, Jason?
Life at Lean.
Oh, Life and Lean, yeah,
Oh,
Dan.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. May just be tricky to get like the time zone,
Yeah, I know. I get emails from him at like 4 a.m. in the morning.
Yes.
It's like, oh wow, okay.
So that might be the tricky part, but I'll reach out and see what we get.
Other side of the Atlantic.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
Cool.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you
Thank you,
guys very
gentlemen.
much.